Ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute pleasure to be here in this amazing Words of Winter interview with the incredible Monique MacDonald today. Now, you guys, this woman is amazing. Let me tell you, she started a career helping people explore and helping people find out what powers them up, what gives them the massive advantage in the marketplace, what they can do to really jack up their lives and take it to a whole nother level by understanding what their superpower is, I like to call it. She calls it their sacred gift. I love to use the term superpower, but this woman started this process in 2004. So for the last 16 years, she's been unlocking people's absolute best abilities, and she has reached thousands internationally. Everybody, we're super blessed to have her here. She's written a beautiful and brilliant book. Let me get the title right. It's called Sacred Living versus Living Scared. A beautiful book that can help inspire your daily activities. She's been a mentor and coach to hundreds. She, as I said, her reach, you guys, over the course of the whole globe here has reached into the many thousands of people that have not only taken her Sacred Gifts course, but they've also been able to use those gifts to really change their lives, to take it to a whole new level. She is a self-professed shift disturber, as she likes to call it. And she is, I call her a profound builder of belief. It is my absolute honor, you guys, to be here with the incredible, the indomitable, the amazing superwoman, Miss Monique MacDonald, the sacred gift lady herself. Monique, thank you so much for blessing myself and the group that are going to watch this wonderful Words of Wisdom interview with your presence today.
Thank you. Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, I don't even know what to say with all that. That's awesome. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, hey, you know what? You did it all. I just got to announce it. So it's just incredible to have you here, Monique. We're super blessed. And so let's dive into it, shall we? Let's explore this. I'm sure people that are watching this right now are going to wonder, okay, sacred gifts. What does that mean? So for anybody watching at home or watching live right now, launch into this a little bit for us. What does the sacred gift term actually mean?
Right. It's so it's a name that I gave to something. It was a name that kind of dropped in, right? To name something that had always been, and that most people just would not necessarily get exposure to unless they had been through sort of religious or Christian upbringing. So do you want me to share how it kind of came to be?
Yeah. Well, because as you said, you call them downloads. So Monique's got this wonderful term where she says she gets these sort of universal downloads into her mind from the divine, as it were, the great beyond. So you get these downloads, Monique, that they've been a profound influence in your life. I mean, you share that great story about, as a nurse, you guys, that's what her first career was. So Monique staying there at the elevator of a nurse got this download that's like, is this all I'm supposed to be? Like, is this? And I think we've all had that question.
Yeah.
Like every one of us, like, what's my real calling here? So take us back just a little bit and explain that process and how you then discovered the sacred gifts concept.
Sure. Well, and so downloads for me they're thoughts. They're just thoughts like we all have, and everybody gets them. I have become over the years better able to distinguish thoughts that are coming from my own mind that I'm producing versus thoughts that drop in and you're like, where'd that come from, right? Okay, so that's what a download is for me. So I was working as a nurse at Vancouver General Hospital in the ICU, and I'd been there 16 years, having a rather rough day, very challenging day, had a short break, it was just bad. Right. And so I was running down to grab a cup of coffee, going down the elevator to get a cup of coffee to come back up. Hadn't had lunch, hadn't had a break. That's all I had time to do. And I was standing at the elevator, and it was that moment, just like you said, of like, is this it? Because what was happening is I was really good as a nurse. However, I was going to work dreading it, and I was often leaving work in tears. So there was this feeling of, is this it? Like, if this is what I'm supposed to do for another 15 years, then shouldn't I be loving it more? Why am I feeling like I'm, dreading coming and all of that? So it was just this moment. And for me, it was a moment of, I'm going to call it sort of my first conscious moment of contact. Like when that
Mm.
thought came up, it was like, if there's a God right now, I'm connecting to it. Like, you need to hear me, like when I'm saying this. So it was that kind of moment. And, it was that feeling of, if this is it, it needs to get a lot better. I don't want to be spending time feeling like this when I'm at work. So after that, everything in my life turned inside out, upside down. I used to describe it as, those forks in front of those garbage trucks that come along and pick up the bin. Well, it was the feeling like I was the bin, and I got picked up, and I got slowly, everything in my entire life got dumped out. And then just when I was getting my bearings again,
Yeah.
you know how it bangs just to make sure everything comes
Yeah. I totally hear you. Yep.
Yeah. So I went from married to not married, living in a 5,600 square foot house, to being in a bedroom at a friend's house.
Wow.
To leaving nursing. Then I left nursing altogether. I later went back to it. Everything in my life was turned inside out. And during that time was when I was introduced to this concept that we have within us these superpowers, as you called them. And that was so compelling to me. It was exactly the right time, exactly the right moment in my life to hear that. And then I dove into it. I started studying it. I went to California to train in gift discernment. And then this whole Sacred Gifts program bubbled out of that moment.
Wow. So that was, put it mildly, that is a serious shift disturbing moment.
Yes. Yes.
Right? When everything, and I think
Yes.
we can all relate to that, right? That we have these junctures in our lives where what we've chosen to do, the pathway that we're on, and an alternate version of what our life or world could look like, they collide, and it can be cataclysmic, right? Like, it can be not in a negative way, just in like a bang. There's lots of energy. There's often a fair amount of chaos from the sounds of it. Yeah. And what I love about your work, Monique, is it helps people find a through line in that chaos. I think a lot of people, they reach for, they search for their sacred gifts, as it were, or their superpower in their times of chaos. Would you agree with me on that one?
I would say that it is typically a big crisis that will happen for people that causes them to be open enough to go, okay, that's it, something has to change, or what some people call surrender, right? It's just that. So it's, I'm a student of Richard Rohr, and he says profound crisis or profound love, are the two things that will cause people to crack open enough to go, okay, something has to change. Yeah.
Right. Those are the things that'll build the chinks in the armor wide enough for change to come in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so you go down to California, and you're introduced to a concept that is similar to Sacred Gifts, but it's not the same, because Sacred Gifts is your baby. Sacred Gifts is your reflection of this concept that you encountered. Am I right?
So the program that I created, the Sacred Gifts program, is based on something that's been taught in the Christian church probably since, maybe formally, I'm going to say since the 1960s, that there's been a kind of formal teaching on spiritual gifts. However, we have to realize that people have had these gifts forever.
Sure.
You just got to look back in history. People are building pyramids and these amazing works of art. And you've just got to go to Rome and stand in one of those amazing cathedrals, and you marvel at the artwork. So people have always shown evidence of gifts. Then there was a program that came out about spiritual gifts. So in the Catholic Church, historically, the teaching was to not empower the average lay person or the non-clerical person with their gifts, because they understood there was a lot of power to them, and in the wrong hands, they felt that those gifts could be misused. So in the Catholic Church, the teachings of spiritual gifts was not really taught. So I went through all of Catholic school. My sister is a Catholic nun. I was raised in a devout Catholic family, and I went to school 12 years, married in the Catholic Church, raised my kids in Catholic school, and not once, Michael, not once do I remember hearing about these amazing gifts that I had and that I was gifted. Nope. So this is in the 60s and 70s, okay, in the Catholic Church. It has since changed. It's changed a lot. As a matter of fact, I think it was Pope John Paul II, I believe, that in the 70s, there was a huge change in the Catholic Church where now it was being taught that, in fact, we do have these gifts, and it changed everything for people. So when I learned about spiritual gifts, here's what I found. I found that the context of it was very church-oriented,
Okay.
and the feeling for me was everybody needs to know this. Like I
Yeah.
thought, everybody needs to know this. So I did the training in gift discernment through a Catholic organization. But at the end of the training, I remember saying to Father Michael, I am called to bring this work out into the world and not in a religious context. So what I felt compelled to do, very compelled, was that my work was to take this very religious teaching and reintroduce it into a really practical format that would reach way beyond the walls of a church. Because in the context it was in, my thought was, well, what about all the other people who need to know this, who are never going to, who are never going to set foot in a church, right? So sacred gifts is just a name to something that has always been, and it's meant to reach people right where they're at, to have a super practical application that you can immediately, once you understand what your gifts are, you can immediately make changes in your life so that you feel more on purpose. So the original piece that really is my own, I would say, is the Feel on Purpose formula. And Michael, that's the basis for all of this. The Feel on Purpose formula is know what your gifts are, use them in a way that's meaningful to you, not to me, right? So I could have the same gift as you do, but how you use your gift may be meaningful to you, but for me to do that, it might not be meaningful to me.
It's so like a lens. It's basically like a lens on how you're going to focus that specific energy.
Exactly. So know what your gifts are, use them in a way that's meaningful to you. When you add to that you're doing something that you feel is benefiting others, right? Then there's a greater chance that you're going to feel on purpose. So Initially, I believed that if you just knew what your gifts were, you would feel on purpose. I thought that was the truth, and I was teaching that. I was saying, come on, you just got to know what your gifts are, and then you're going to feel on purpose. But I found out that was absolutely not true, because for me, I had a gift of teaching, and what I was teaching was not interesting to me anymore.
Right.
So even though I still, the gift of teaching never changes. That gift is in me. It's always there, but teaching what I was teaching wasn't interesting anymore, and I was becoming more interested in teaching personal development. And years later, I became more interested in teaching spiritual development, and I teach physical wellness. So the what I'm doing with my gift needs to be meaningful to me in order for me to feel on purpose and to be of benefit to others, for me to feel like I'm contributing somehow to the world.
Awesome. I love that, because Monique, what I love about what you just said there, if we deconstruct that for a second, is that you're saying you can be blessed with a sacred gift, with this incredible power that you have, and yet throughout your life, you'll probably find 5, 6, 7, a dozen different ways or more even that you can use that, like different lenses through which you use that power. So as if you have, for example, the sacred gift of teaching and you're a parent, that's probably going to come out in your parenting style. That's probably going to be the part of the parenting that you love and have the most success with. If you have the sacred gift of teaching and you're a business owner, it's probably going to be, you'll find that that comes out through how you teach and guide your employees, your staff, your customers, right? All that kind of thing. So am I on the right track with that?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So, when my kids were in elementary school, the grade 2 teacher said to me, she wanted me to come in the class and teach some French. So she had seen me in different situations, and she saw that, I was able to teach. So she asked me to come into this grade 2 classroom and teach some French, simple French to her students. She didn't speak French, and she wanted them to have this exposure. I was in there 1 hour, and I said to her, I will never do that again unless you duct tape them to the chair. It was just the worst experience, like totally not my thing. at all. These every 2 seconds, one had to go to the bathroom. They were moving around. So it just was absolutely not my thing. I hated every minute of it. And I said to her, like, I'm not the person. So even though I have a gift in teaching, it doesn't mean that every single thing is going to be where it connects. It has to be meaningful to me. And that was teaching French to grade 2 students was not meaningful to me. That doesn't mean it's not meaningful. It means it wasn't meaningful to me. So therefore, I could do it. I could force myself to do it. I could make myself show up every day to do it, like a lot of people do, showing up at their jobs.
Sure.
And it would suck the life out of me.
Interesting. So, because one of the things I love about your work, Monique, and anybody who's watching this, it's an important distinction. Your sacred gift does not necessarily mean your career.
Correct.
Right? Like, just because you have a specific sacred gift, like as a teacher, like you're just talking about, that doesn't mean that you want a career as an educator the way, like on a traditional education system. Like, it just means that you have a gift of being able to teach people things, right? And so I think what I love about the sacred gifts concept that you're alluding to is that we can be experiencing our gift in such a multitude of facets that can plug into all sorts of different elements of our lives. And that just, because I think we get really focused, Monique, don't you, on what we do for a living? Like, we are doctors, we are lawyers, we are teachers, we are entrepreneurs, we are these things, and we forget about being. And I know that's cliche, but I think we forget about being in our gift, being great at just being a wonderful version of ourselves, and get trapped into these labels and describing ourselves as this thing. And that's where the sacred gifts come in, for me, at least when I was looking at your work, as it goes, yeah, you can have these gifts. You can have the gift of knowledge, for example, right? You can have the gift of knowledge and not have to be somebody who loves encyclopedias.
Correct.
Right?
Correct, that's right. And so what I teach is that the gifts that we have are part of our essence. We're born with them. They're going to be there throughout our life. However they got there is up to people to decide. So I don't determine and tell my students how you got those gifts. So some people believe they're from God. Some people believe that it's your karma. Some people believe your soul picks them before you're born. Some people believe it's just fate. Some people don't even believe they have them, okay, and that's fine, or they don't know they have them. But what I have found in doing this for all the years I've done it is I've never met anybody who doesn't have. Everybody has not just one gift, but what my experience has shown in working with thousands and thousands of people is that most people show evidence of a whole selection of gifts. So the program that I teach has 24 different gifts in it, and most people have a handful of them. We don't have them all. You wouldn't want them all. You'd never be able to. You just would never. How could you ever, navigate life, right? Yeah. But there are going to be several of them that keep showing up throughout your life. Sometimes they're really active. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're really needed. Sometimes they're not. So the gift.
Hey, hold on. Let me jump in there for 1 sec, Monique. Sometimes they're really active, and sometimes they're really needed. Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
So during COVID, great example, during the pandemic, a lot of people were called into a whole new direction that they had never been in before. It was unexplainable. There was this tsunami of people who all of a sudden, when the job was taken away from them and they were sitting at home, wondering what they were going to do, felt very compelled to move in a different direction. It might have been something creative. They might have started to work in their yard and all of a sudden found this passion for landscaping and found this passion for creating beautiful pieces of woodwork or whatever, and that because what it was that they were doing before wasn't available to them, or that there was suddenly a need. For example, because of the pandemic, there were people who were needed in volunteer positions. There were people who were needed at the hospital, and it's as though when it's needed, and it changes throughout history as to what gifts are needed more, then they seem to appear. So for example, with technology, there was no people were not called to technology in the Middle Ages.
No.
In the 15th, 16th century, people that had a gift of craftsmanship were called to build beautiful cathedrals, to paint amazing art. They were called in a certain way. And then now people that have that same gift may not be called to paint a painting. They may be called to create an amazing app that's needed, that's going to help people with their health, right?
Yep.
So depending on what is needed seems to activate these abilities within us, and it can change over time. So there's been times in my life where some of my gifts have been very active and others haven't been. My gift of teaching is kind of always there. I mean, I was a little kid playing school. I was always the teacher. I was the person that if you're driving and you're lost and you stop and ask me directions, I will give you excellent directions. And I will check in with you. And, and if you didn't quite get it, give me a piece of paper and I'm going to give it to you in a different way so that now you can visually see it, right? People who have gift of teaching have that ability. And you know what it's like if you stop and ask directions from somebody who does not have a gift of teaching. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. So these gifts are part of our essence, or what I call our beingness. They're part of our essence. Then there's our human part, our human aspect, the labels you're talking about, what your job description is, or I'm a mom, or their personality. So your humanness has your personality and all kinds of other aspects about you that can be completely in contrast to what your gifts are that are in your essence.
Fascinating. Okay, so let's dial back a little bit here for a second, Monique, because you said some interesting things when you first sort of discovered your sacred gifts, or at least especially the calling, right? The sacred calling that you were experiencing. So when you first touched on this thing, you gave us that beautiful image or that story about the garbage bin dumping thing, and a whole lot of stuff happened in your life. So, because some people might be a little bit scared of exploring the concept of sacred gifts. Some people, they're courageous enough and they just go, yeah, I'm all in, right? But then there's those people out there that could be watching this that are going, sounds like Monique started exploring this and her life went topsy-turvy, and I don't know if I'm really into that. So what would you say to somebody like that? Like, is this a hot topic for some people? Like, can it be tricky? Can it automatically send their life into some sort of juxtaposition, or can it be a more gentler approach?
It can be both. It can be both. So when I'm doing this work with employers in companies, if I'm working with a team of, like a management team, I will say to the person who has hired me to come in, just be aware that you could potentially on Monday morning have people who leave their jobs as a result of hearing what I'm going to say. Okay, so that is very possible. So that kind of turmoil for someone, is that negative or positive? Well, it might be negative for the employer from one perspective, because somebody might leave because they realize the job they are doing is 100% not in alignment with what their gifts are. So it's possible that it will create turmoil for sure, but does that mean it's negative, or does that mean it's positive, right? In the end, for me, of course, it was positive. For an employer, it might seem like a negative thing that the employee leaves. However, is it really, or wouldn't you prefer to have an employee who's completely in alignment with their gifts in the job they're doing?
Totally.
Yeah. Totally.
Interesting. Okay, so it must have been scary for you when you first started diving into this, because I mean, because you said your marriage changed, like a whole lot of stuff suddenly shifted.
Yeah, I think the scariest thing for me in all of it was feeling this calling, because I had never experienced that. So that for me was a new experience, because I had been a person who had control of my life, where I was a nurse. My plan was to be a nurse till I was, 55, 60. I had a side business that had some good income, and I was going to slowly over time build that business, slowly come out of nursing. So there was nothing in my plan for this sudden epiphany to come in that this is what I'm supposed to do. So I think I don't know if scary is the right word, but there was a lot of, it was disorientating. That's how I would describe it. It was disorientating, but it was so compelling. You know, when you know that you're being pulled in a direction that you can't not do it, even though there's a part of you that's scared, but there's still something compelling enough to keep pulling you in that direction.
So how would you describe that to somebody? Because I love that you're compelled to do it. So if someone's watching this, because for me, sometimes I'm like, am I compelled to do this? Or is it just something I'm fascinated by? Like, can you distinguish between something that you're compelled to do or something that you're just mildly interested in? Like, what's the type of sensation that somebody might be discovering? And then we're going to get on to how to identify some tips on how to identify your sacred gifts.
It is hard to describe unless you've had the experience. So it is always easy for people who have had it, even though it's challenging to put words to it, because it's kind of for me, it was kind of a mystical experience, I guess, because it was something I'd never experienced before. But if somebody's been through it, they know exactly what I'm talking about. So it is a feeling that everything in my mind is saying, are you crazy? Why are you even thinking this? You've got a plan. You're supposed to go over here. And yet at a deep level, there's a sense of, if I don't do that, it's going to torment me forever. If I don't do that, it's going to eat me alive. And when I started building the Sacred Gifts program and I started talking to people about it, I kept trying to take myself out of the game, Michael. It was not what my plan was. So I kept trying to take myself out of the game. I did everything I could to take myself out of the game.
By the language you were using, or by the actions you were taking, or what?
By the actions I was not taking.
Okay.
So
it was like, oh my God, this sounds amazing. You should totally do it. And you're like, yeah, not doing it.
People were saying to me, well, I want to know what my sacred gifts are. You should do a workshop. You should do this. You should do that. And that was creating all this pressure. And so there was a part of me that was, yes, people want this. I'm feeling compelled to do it. And yet there was this other part of me that had fear of what if. I don't know what I'm doing. And who am I? There was a lot of the who am I? And on top of that, you can imagine the tape that was playing in my mind over and over again this is a deeply religious program. And here I am saying to this Father Michael that I'm compelled to teach this and take all the religious stuff out of it. So that had a big impact on me. And there was a woman, I shared it with one woman down in California during my training. I shared it over lunch with a woman, what I was starting to feel. And she said, you can't do that. That would be wrong. Oh, that's not right. You can't do that. And I said, but people in business need to know this. I said, if I knew this, it would have changed everything. I had a network marketing business at the time. And I was like, it would have changed everything, because I don't have the gift of hospitality, and people kept telling me I need to do potlucks and have people in my home. And
parties, you're like, get out.
I don't want to have people in my home. And if I knew but it would have changed my business, right? And so she says to me, that would not be good. You can't do that, because people in business, and then they'll use it and they'll misuse it. And so of course, then I was like, okay, that would be bad. I can't do this. So then I sat with it. Then I continued to volunteer and do things in the program. And I kept thinking, but people need to know this, but that would be bad. So I was in this place of turmoil. And then I mentioned it to somebody who had a real business mind. And he said to me, you need a website. And I was like, I need a website? What? Like, this was in 2004. Like, what's a website? Why do I have to have a website? So then it was like, and you need to have business cards and put your phone number. And I'm like, what? People are going to phone me? I don't want people phoning me. And so it was.
I don't have the gift of hospitality. I don't
want people phoning me. So I don't want them coming over. So it was, there was a period of time where it was very disorientating and very confusing. And what got me through, Michael, is actually, I have a lot of them up here, like you, my books. So what got me through it was I started reading. I found every book I could about a calling on your life. I remember one book I read called Callings. And starting to understand so that I could read it was like, oh my God, that's what's happening in me. I'm feeling compelled to do this. And it was telling me, these books were telling me, just go with it. You'll be supported. It was all kind of mystical and weird, but I just felt like I just had to follow it. I've met a lot of people in doing this work who resist it and never do follow that compelling calling. And all I can say is it's their journey. I used to get upset. I used to feel all
Yeah.
this stuff. Now I just, I just accept it. But there's, I would say, a very large percentage of people go through life having an inkling of where the direction they're being called, and they never do it because how will I be successful? How will I make money? All these different things come up, which can be very legitimate. And so
Yep.
people just kind of push the feeling down. It sits in them, and then they spend, the regrets. They talk about things you didn't do. It eats at them. And for me, the big catalyst was, I read in a book, the universe is brilliant enough to know that not everybody is going to say yes to a calling. So the universe, in its infinite wisdom, may give the same call. If it needs to get done, the universe will plant it in a lot of people.
A lot of people. And they'll keep beating you with it over and over again.
Right. So, yeah, exactly. So I remember when I read that, there was this feeling like, okay, well, that would feel really lousy. Then I'm really going to feel terrible if I've had this strong feeling I should do this and I don't, and other people get this same thing and they do. And then I don't want to be 10 years from now being one of those people that says, well, I had that idea and I didn't do it. Right. So that was pretty compelling for me. It was kind of the takeaway.
Right.
Yeah.
Somebody else is going to jump on this amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. And having known you, Monique, this is not about the financial impact that this has. This is about, man, this wonderful thing that's attached to you, and you get to guide it into being, right?
I couldn't shake this thing off if I tried. And let me tell you, over the last 16 years, I have tried to get rid of this thing. I have had conversations with the universe and with God saying, could you kindly give this to somebody else? Like, enough already. Yeah, because it just is never, it has a life of its own. Since this thing was born, it has had a life of its own. And I have spent 16 years mostly sort of chasing after it. It's just always growing and going. And I'm always running behind, feeling like can't keep up, right? It's its own, I would say, it's its own entity. And when I've spoken to people who have had a clear calling and have followed it, that's often how they describe it, is it's like this other thing that has a life of its own, and I've been assigned to sort of, walk
shepherd it along, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's really interesting. I teach a program called the Success Wheel, Monique, and it has 5 different stages to it, and there's a lot of different people that teach like this is the success, follow these 4 steps to reach it. But the one that I often never see, and there's what you just touched on, is this idea of faith. So step number 3 for me in the success wheel, as you're spinning the wheel of success and getting going and building momentum, faith becomes an absolute crucial element, because if you don't have faith in what it is that you've planned and mapped out, you'll never take the action necessary. And so what you were talking about was, as far as sometimes people find their sacred gifts, but they actually don't have faith in their ability to bring that gift into the world to bring value in any way. It's just, okay, this is just a thing I've got, right? So it's almost like they're not yet faithful enough in themselves or in the abundant level of the universe to really dive into it. So I think that's an interesting juxtaposition that you must see over and over again in your work. People find a gift and yet they're completely unwilling to really focus their energy through it.
Yeah, and the great thing about this is this is just my made up story. Nobody has to believe it. My made up story is, it's so great that with these gifts, even if you don't have belief in them, so they're still there anyway.
Right.
So they will still come out anyway. Okay, they will still show themselves. And people, when they go through the program, I've never had anybody go through the program that couldn't identify at least 1 or 2 that they know that they have this, right?
Right.
So it's that there's something that happens in people's minds where they start to get anxious. Okay, I see that I have this ability. Yep, I've got this gift. How do I monetize it? They go right there. How do I take it and how do I monetize it so that I can?
Where do you think that comes from? Like, why do we so quickly move into how do I monetize this?
I would say that what I've seen is it depends on the age of the people I'm working with. And I think that there is again, with Father Richard Rohr talks about the first half of life and the second half of life. In the first half of life, we are supposed to achieve and succeed. It's kind of our drive.
Okay.
It's kind of that warrior energy of, what am I going to do? What's my career going to be? And where am I going to make my mark and all of that? And so when these teachings are in front of somebody who's in that mindset, that's their first thought is, well, how can I take this and how can I monetize it? So what I teach is not so much monetize it, but where can you find a career path that's going to allow you to express these gifts as part of it?
Yeah. Like where is there a career path where I can power these gifts through it?
Yeah.
Right?
So if you are focused on, you want to choose a career path where you're going to make $100,000 a year, okay, then let's look at what your gifts are and then choose a path where it's just going to be naturally part of it to be able to utilize those
sense.
gifts. So, because if you go into accounting, because your mom and dad did accounting and they may have had gifts.
Which you see all the time, right? Which you see that all the time, yeah.
Right. So
I'm a lawyer because my dad was a lawyer. My mom was a lawyer, right?
Or you choose to be a doctor or a lawyer because you can not only help people, of course, but also that there is going to be some success and financial rewards in doing that. Okay, then if you're going to be a doctor, let's look at what your gifts are. And you're going to choose, you may naturally do that, but some people they become surgeons. Okay, the doctors are a great example of this. If you're going to be a surgeon, trust me, I can't think of a single surgeon who would not have a gift of craftsmanship. Everything you do as a surgeon is tools and little instruments and equipment and how to work the equipment and using robotic arms, right? Now, if you go into medicine and you have a gift of compassion and encouragement, you love to sit with people, hold space for them, you might want to be a palliative care doctor and not so much a surgeon. So even if you understand this at a young age, it can really shape the sense of reward and fulfillment you feel in whatever field that you pick.
Cool. Very cool. I love it. Okay, so let's dive into a little bit here, Monique. Let's first start off by going, okay, so how does someone, without, completely diving into your course, obviously, what are some of the, if you were to say to somebody, okay, these are, a couple little tips or tips of the iceberg that might reveal to you a gift, right? Because you have, is there anything where somebody could go to see what the 24 gifts are? Or is that just in your course?
Yeah, they're revealed in the program, but there are some basic things that people can look for. So one of them is pay attention to the feedback you get from people. When people are saying to you, so two things you want to pay attention to. If somebody says to you, you're so good at that, that's amazing. Now, when they say that, if the feeling inside of you is, yeah, I'm good at it, but it sucks the life out of me, that would be a clue. It's probably not your gift. It could be a skill.
Okay. So there's a difference between gifts and skills.
Sure. Because your skills are part of your humanness. You can learn skills.
Sure.
Okay. So when somebody
some of us can't. I don't know about
that. So if somebody says to you, you are so good at that, okay, you want to pay attention to how that feels. It's like, really? So I used to get feedback all the time that I was really good at giving advice. And people would come to me. I remember being in nursing school and I lived in a residence with 300 other girls. I always had somebody at my door and they used to say, oh, you should have one of those little Lucy plaques, psychiatrist 5 cents or whatever. There was always somebody at my door that would come in and they'd say, can I ask you something? Can I ask your opinion? Can I run something by you? Right? Okay. So that was just always there. So when people started to say to me, this was in the mid 2000s, you're really good at this. Have you ever considered maybe you could do some kind of work? And I remember thinking, that is so ridiculous. What kind of job is there where people come to me for advice? What the hell? What the hell would that be, right? And then, of course, that's what most consultants are. Most people who are consultants are people come to them because they have problems. So pay attention to the feedback. If somebody says something to you and you think, that would be a fate worse than death to be doing this the rest of my life, that's probably a clue that it's not. So you pay attention to the feedback.
Okay.
You look for repeated patterns throughout your life. Where are there periods of time in your life at different times where whatever it is that you were doing, you just felt that aliveness, So whether it's working in your wood shop in the basement, or whether it's sitting with somebody and on an airplane and they're just sharing their life and their life experience, whether it's reading books and getting knowledge, whether it's music or writing or whatever it is, right? So
Okay.
you sort of look back, and this is because most people teach that you only have one gift. It's typically talked about in the singular. You'll hear people say, find your gift.
Yeah,
So
yeah, all the time.
very confusing then. It's not, you have more than one. And that's why when people are told to look back over their life at the different times where they felt that amazing connection, and they're like, yeah, but I was doing this, and when I was doing that, and that's probably because it's reflecting different gifts that were activated. So you look for repeated patterns in your life.
So repeated patterns. So this would be, just to frame of reference it, so this would be things where, as you said, there's a sense of aliveness. Would you also say that there's a sense of energy, to like you feel energized in doing it, and perhaps a sense of ease,
Right?
like you're not like grinding away at, like, this is a sense of ease in doing this thing. Yes, it's work, or yes, it's going to take some time to commit to something, but there's a sense of ease about it, and a almost just a permission, like this is just an easy thing to say yes to.
Yes, even though it could be really hard.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yes, that's the really cool thing about it. It could be super challenging, but in that challenge, it's so energizing. So energizing is the next thing. So you look for feedback.
I love that.
You look for repeated patterns, and you look for how energizing it is. Pay attention to what energizes you and what makes you feel fulfilled and connected when you're doing it. And then the last thing is looking for extraordinary results. Now, that is really challenging for us to do that for ourselves, because when we are in our gifts, to us, it is second nature. There's nothing amazing about it, because it just is there. It's part of our fiber. It's part of our beingness. So when I'm in my gift, it is not like I'm working at it. It just comes out in whatever it is, whatever way that gift is expressed. But to somebody else who does not have the gift, it will seem extraordinary to them.
Interesting.
Yeah, so extraordinary meaning almost a supernatural aspect to it. And when I say supernatural, I'm not talking occult. I'm talking an unexplained ability that cannot be explained through human means. So for example, I have a gift of teaching. I did not go to teacher school. My parents were not teachers. There was nothing. It was just there. As a little kid, I wanted to teach. And when I was a high school student, I tutored to make money. And as a nurse, the most rewarding nursing experiences I had was when I was working in a place where I could sit with a patient and I could teach them about their condition, about the resources, about how they can move forward in life, and, you know, with this, whatever it is they have. So it's looking for looking for results that to other people seem extraordinary, but to you it is second nature. And to do that, you've got to get feedback from other people. You really do.
Cool. Okay, so those are, as you said, feedback from others. Those things that people say that, oh my gosh, right? This is so wonderful. Like I love the way you do this. Yeah. Right, becomes crucial. And just what do they say about you, to a certain degree, right? Repeated patterns of feeling aliveness, and I love how we put that it's easy to say yes even though it could be hard to do.
That's right.
Right. I think that's such a wonderful check mark for people to like to box off, is to go, if this is a big huge challenge and yet I'm going, I'm in.
Compelling. It's like compelling. Somebody runs it by you, and there's this part of you that's like, oh my God, that'd be amazing. But the mind might go, I've never done that. How could I do that? But there's this compelling aspect to it. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. And then no matter what, your sacred gift will be inevitably some sort of energizing force. Like when you're in it, when you're using it, there'll be a sense of energy flowing through you.
If you are using your gifts in a way that is meaningful to you,
that's right. Okay. Of
benefit to others. And then the last piece of the formula that we haven't touched on is in the right vehicle. So it's really important to know, if you think you know your gift, for example, let's say it's music, okay? And you think that you're really clear that your gift is music, and what's meaningful to you is playing an instrument. And you know that other people benefit because they love listening to you play the music. But let's say you're self-employed. Okay. And it's the wrong vehicle for you because you are not an entrepreneur. You are not any good at promoting yourself. You have no idea how to market. And so you could know your gift, all those things about it, but it still feels frustrating and annoying and it's just not getting anywhere. And that could be because it's the wrong vehicle. For you, it might be better to be hired in a band and have a manager that manages all that. You just show up, you play your instrument, your audience loves it, and you are not involved in the management or the business aspect of it. Okay?
Right.
So,
I love that.
yeah. So the vehicle is really important. So when I was a nurse, I had a job and I had a salary, and it was the perfect vehicle for me. I am the ultimate employee. I am not a business person. So I'm an excellent employee. I know when I'm supposed to show up. I'm compliant. I show up on time. I do my job. I know what I'm going to get paid. I get to go home. Don't have to think about it. Get to spend the money when it comes, right? So I'm an excellent employee. When I left nursing because of this compelling thing to build sacred gifts, I had this stupid idea one day that I was just going to quit nursing because I was now following my heart and found myself with completely no compass, no idea what to do, and very quickly realized I don't like business, don't want to build a business, didn't enjoy anything about it at all. It was totally the wrong vehicle. So even though I was using my gifts, doing something meaningful to me, which was the whole sacred gifts thing, people were benefiting. Like I have boxes and boxes and boxes in the garage of amazing stories and life changed things, but it was sucking the life out of me. And what was sucking the life out of me when I realized it was the wrong vehicle. Business is just not the right thing for me. I am self-employed, but building a business is the worst thing for me in terms of building something from scratch. So once you know what the right vehicle is for you, that's often for most people the place that there's disconnect. Most people have a sense of what they love to do. They dream about if you gave them a magic wand, they can tell you they want a bed and breakfast. They're never going to do it, but they tell you they want it. They know. But it's that vehicle piece. It's being in the right vehicle. That was huge for me. That changed everything once that dropped in as a download. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so you said they have to be meaningful to others, right? So for a gift to really work for you, it has to be meaningful to meaningful to you. The gift has to be meaningful to you. It has to bring value to other people, and it has to be flowing essentially through the right vehicle for it to really manifest in the way that is a superpower.
Yes. And it's not so much for it to be shown as a superpower, it's for you to feel on purpose. So that's the feel on purpose formula. So Michael, there are a lot of people out there who do not care about feeling on purpose, and it's not what they should be looking at. There are people who should not be looking at sacred gifts because that's not what they're interested in. They don't care about feeling on purpose. They don't care about purpose at all. They just want to pick something that is going to be something they can do well, make a lot of money, and that's going to give them the success they want and the sense of achieving what it is they want. This is not for them. This is for people who are looking for a deeper sense of meaning in what they're doing, a connection to what they're doing, a sense of fulfillment, a sense of purpose. And not everybody is looking for that. However, we are moving into a time where more and more people are. And certainly with this pandemic, I have been inundated with people who are all of a sudden they're like, you know what? I don't ever want to go back to that job. And the pandemic's the best thing that ever happened to me because now I realize I'm not going back to that thing. I've been doing it for 20 years. I hate it. Now what am I going to do? Now I want to do something that's more connected to who I am. And this is where this can become, where people are looking for a feeling of being on purpose with their work.
When someone finds this feeling of being on purpose, Monique, can you describe for us a little bit what that's going to do for them? Like, what is it? I mean, some of us are going to have some sort of like a sort of a concept around it, but you've worked with so many students, thousands of people. If you were to, and I don't know how you're going to boil this down into a succinct one, an answer here in a paragraph, but what is it that once people get on purpose, when they align their gifts with the right vehicle, bringing value to the world and being in the right space, like what happens to them when that all those pieces line up together? I think what people forget is that this isn't just about personal development. This is really beyond that to a certain degree. This is about finding a raison d'etre. Like this is about finding man, I was looking for why I'm on this darn planet, and this is it all lining up in a direction.
Yeah, and so what's going to happen? What's going to happen is they're going to save a lot of money because they're spending tons of money doing courses and buying programs and doing what everybody else tells them they should do, and they're spending so much money. So they will save a lot of money. They will be less stressed. And as a result of being less stressed, because once they start to feel like what they're doing, it has purpose and meaning to them, they become less stressed. So somebody who's not doing what they love is terrible to be around. They're typically, right? So it affects your relationship. So you start to save money. You may even be making more money because now you're so connected to what you're doing, the money starts to flow. You have less stress happening in your life. You have better relationships happening in your life. You're more productive in what you're doing. So there's many, many ways that you benefit from. I mean, for me, I got to tell you, I will say no to anything very quickly now because I am doing them a favor. I used to say yes. I used to say yes to everything people would ask me to do because it was like, oh, isn't that nice? They asked me, and oh, they want me to be the president of the Catholic Women's League. Isn't that nice? And I'd say yes to stuff for all the wrong reasons.
Right.
Then I would realize it would suck the life out of me. Now I know what my gifts are. I know what makes me feel on purpose. I've got it nailed. So it's very easy for me to navigate life. It is really easy for me because I can say no thanks, but I know this person over here who would love that, and sort of be able to just stay doing the things I love to do. And there's many different things I love to do.
Right. But discovering the lane is wonderful, right? And you can go, I imagine one of the things that people do get is they also can go much faster. Like they can, and I don't mean that as far as like just sheer speed, but they can get into that zone and be energized and moving towards what they love and they want so much faster, or they're not being distracted by other people's desires and needs because they're feeling on purpose.
And it flows. It flows. Yeah. So when you don't know what your gifts are and you're trying to figure it out, or you're doing something that isn't in alignment with your gifts, it's like paddling upstream. And what happens, what we see in the program is it's like people's boats turn around, and it's like, oh my gosh. Okay. But it may flow them down a different path for sure. Like it may take them down a different path, and it can be scary for people. So, we really support people in, it's not just knowing what your gifts are. You're going to need perhaps some support in having the courage to say yes. And, that's what it takes for a lot of people. And then for other people, it's easy. We've had people in the workshop where literally on Monday afternoon, I will get an email saying, oh my God, best workshop I ever did, best program I ever did. And yesterday or today I resigned from my job, because it's such a sense of relief. When people are ready, they're ready, and they just know. And so it appeals to people that are in transition, or they're just unhappy and they don't know why. Often people come and they don't even know. They don't even know why don't I love this? My mom and dad did this. They loved it. They told me I should do this. Why don't I love this? Well,
how do you get rid of their guilt then? Because that's going to be something that could keep them locked.
Yeah, you don't. So the program doesn't do that. Coaching does that, right? Having the right support and coaching for them to be able to move through that. Or for some people, we tell them, look, you're seriously going to need therapy. Like they need to go to counseling to undo, because we often get people who at a very young age, they knew exactly what they wanted to do, and mom and dad, out of the goodness of their heart, talked them out of them. You'll never be successful. You'll never be able to make money doing that.
I had that, I had that happen to me because I wanted to be a professional actor.
Yeah, there you go.
And there was this underlying sentiment from my parents all the time of going, you better have a plan B, right? You should have an alternate way of, like my dad going, well, maybe you should get a teacher's degree as well. Like maybe you should do your PDA, and maybe you should do these other things, like this steady stream of, as I'm building the structure of my career, they're busy digging out from underneath in the basement, right?
Yeah.
Of just going, remember, you always have a second plan B. Remember to always have another idea, right?
Yeah.
Just make sure that you get a great job or do something solid. Are you sure that, and I hear that all the time too. Are you sure entrepreneurship is what you really want to be into? Running businesses, is that really what you want to do? I mean, because you could just get a job. My dad would tell me all the time, he's like, you're a highly employable person. This is his most recent one for me. He keeps saying to me, he's like, Michael, you're just turned 40. He's like 40 to 50. They're your big earning years. Are you sure you don't want to go out and find a really good job?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's
I
the
know. I
the
know.
mantra that comes in.
But you know what's changing is some parents, many parents are starting to shift away from that, and the school system is shifting away from that. So now we have parents who foster people's gifts, and for me, that's the most beautiful thing to see. I've often been asked, like, why don't you teach this to kids so that young kids know their gifts? And I've always felt it's very clear. It's very clear. I would be setting a child up for success, for failure, if we showed them what their gifts were and they had parents who didn't foster it. So
Yeah.
it's the parents that I feel really compelled to educate on this, so that when they see these gifts in children, because kids show us their gifts at a very young age, that the parents can foster and nurture it and get beyond that mind frick fear of how are they going to succeed, right? That's their own fear.
Space to really flourish. Beautiful. Oh, Monique, this has been fantastic. We have a few audience members here today, so I'll just quick shout out to them. Is there any questions? Just put them into the chat box, you guys, if anybody has a question at all, or that we can ask Monique before we start to wrap things up. So I'll reach out to, we have some people on Facebook watching, and we've got some people here in the Zoom room with us. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to forward those up to us now before we wrap things up with Monique. So Monique, while we bring in the questions, where can people find you? Where can people, if they want to know more about Sacred Gifts, maybe they want to take your workshop? I mean, are you doing it online right now? Is that possible?
Yeah, so we had to stop all the live events, obviously. So it's the website is Your Sacred Gifts with an S, yoursacredgifts.com. And in there's an online program that people can do as a self-study, or they can do it with one of our certified guides.
Okay, so there's two options there. They can do it with a guide or on their own.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. And then if that's like, is that the first place people should go? Oh, fire truck going by me here. Is that the first place people should go, Monique, is to the Sacred Gifts website?
Yeah, go to the website, and the digital online program is great because it's got everything in it. You can do it self-guided if you want to. You can do it at your own pace. And then we have a lot of coaches now that are coming in that want to get certified because they're wanting to use the program and the materials with their own clients as well. But the first step is, first you want to know what your gifts are, and get into that feel on purpose formula. Look at those 4 pieces and see what in there needs to be adjusted.
Yep. Beautiful. Okay. So people are just loving the stories, Monique. They absolutely, on both the Facebook side and in Zoom, they love your story and how compelling it is and how fascinating your journey's been. To go from overworked and underpaid and underappreciated nurse staring at the elevator doors all the way through to really embracing your gifts and becoming a real a bugle call for people discovering what it is that they are compelled to do, what it is that the universe has said, this is your gift, right? I do a lot of work directly with Les Brown, which is a real blessing for me.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful guy. And he always shares that concept of, nothing will be worse than if you're laying on your deathbed and you're surrounded by all of the ideas and the power and your gifts and the things that you were supposed to bring into the world. And they're all staring at you going, we came to you. We came to you. Our role was to flow through you, and you left us in the closet. Right? You brushed us aside. So I think that was one of the reasons I was asking about courage, Monique, because I think a lot of people get scared of change. They get scared of rocking the boat. They get scared of going, I don't like this ship anymore, but I know this ship. And it keeps them really, as I like to put it, just basically imprisoned by their own comfortability.
Yeah, and that's why personal development is so important, because depending on, you can be a hot mess. You can be a total hot mess in your human life, and you can still be super effective. And we've seen that in the celebrity world, where people are so gifted, but they implode because they just haven't done the work. So there's, the more you work on yourself, the more you'll have courage, the less fear there'll be. So there's such a big place for just the personal development sort of coaching part of that too. But these gifts, even if you're a hot mess, these gifts they're still there, and they're still going to be able to flow through that hot mess. Yeah.
Well, I love how you just put that, because we can relate to that. I know so many rock stars. I know so many movie stars. I know so many business owners. Oh my gosh. Their personal life, what they do outside their quote unquote 9 to 5 customer time is they're a disaster zone. Like they're a train wreck. And yet, as you said, they get into their gift. Their gift has a focus. It's got a specific intention, and they're brilliant at that.
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. Okay, so Monique, my final question to you. Final question. We are 5 years out from today, and Monique MacDonald and the Sacred Gifts program is at the pinnacle of what you would love it to be. What's the impact it's having in the world?
That it's that this is just common knowledge that everyone has the opportunity, no matter where they live, anywhere in the world, that they have the opportunity to access this, and that it just becomes common understanding in people's upbringing and lives, that it's just everyday knowledge that, you know, what your gifts are, that parents know it, they foster it, they watch for it, they see these gifts, they nurture them, they foster them, and that people just live like they used to, Michael. There was a time in history where people, and there are cultures, I've traveled all around the world, you can go into cultures where people are just in their gifts. They are not obsessed with achieving and succeeding. They just do what they're given to do, and they don't even question it. So, you know, I think we're going to move back in that direction where people can really give themselves permission to do what they love, and to know that really the universe supports them and that they are equipped to do it.
Beautiful. I love it. Okay, so I guess I have one more question after that. Are we? Do we have permission to call on you again in the future here and check in on how that mission's going, and get you to share some of these beautiful, brilliant stories again?
For sure. Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Monique, for being on here with me. Guys, this is incredible stuff. Honestly, check out this lady's website. Once again, Monique, what was the website?
yoursacredgifts.com, gifts with an S.
Beautiful. Go there. Check it out. Discover your gifts, or harness your superpower, you guys. And really, that's that Beyond Purpose formula that Monique has is a wonderful lens of taking this energy source that is your sacred gifts that you have, and zeroing in and focusing that like lasers to be able to get some incredible results in your life. So once again, thank you so much, Monique, for being on here with me. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. Much love from me to you. I know that you and I, that the whole kissing thing has a special, I'm not going to get into that. Anyway, we did a workshop, and anyway, we'll go. But the fact is that there's a special meaning to that, not what you people think. And it's been wonderful having you on here, Monique. So thank you so much. And if you're watching this, thank you so much, everybody, for being on here. Much love from me to you guys. Ciao for now.
Thank you.